Hi, everybody. My name is Nanika Edwards. I'm a poet, author, artist, educator, which means teacher, from Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean. Today, I'll be teaching you about a special poetic device called hyperbole. What does hyperbole mean? Do you think you can guess? Does any part of that word look familiar to you? Well, hyper, if you just look at that part of the word, hyper kind of means like Uber, not like the car ride service, but meaning uh, meaning ultra, excessive, a little too much, over the top, supersized. That's what hyper means. The whole word hyperbole means to exaggerate or exaggeration. Do you know what that word means? Right, it means when you take something and make it bigger than it is or smaller than it is by miles and miles and miles, right? And the word hyperbole is a combination of two parts. It comes from a Greek word, and hyper means excessive, and bole means to throw. So I guess it's kind of like, if you want to think about it like this, I'm assuming you can think about it like this. If you're playing a ball game like tennis or cricket or baseball or basketball, and let's say that you need to throw the ball to someone, maybe to one of your team members, but you throw it way too hard. Way, way, way too hard. Or if we think of baseball, let's say that the pitcher pitches the ball and you're at the bat, you're the person who's batting. You're at the stump, I think, or the crease. I forget. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure how baseball works, but I have a general idea. But anyway, let's say you're the person batting and you hit the ball so hard that you hit it out of the park. Now, if I'm writing a poem about you, if I as an if I am an author, I'm writing a poem about you hitting the ball out of the park, then I could really emphasize the fact that you did something really great by exaggerating. By exaggerating. For example, I could say, he didn't just hit that out of the park, he hit that out of the province, or he hit that out of the state, he hit that out of the country. He hit that across the world. He hit that halfway across the world. He hit that from Texas to Paris. You get the point. That's hyperbole. That's exaggeration. So let's look at an example of hyperbole in an actual piece of writing. This is a poem called Monsters. It is an acrostic poem. What's an acrostic poem? An acrostic poem is a poem that goes across. What do I mean by across? Don't all poems go across? Yes, of course all poems go across the page, but what I mean is what you have is a word that is written from top to bottom. Like, what word do you see here? Written top to bottom in colored ink. Like, not black, it's another color. Like, what color is it? That's right. It's blue. Right, so what's the word? Correct, it's monsters. But notice that there is a line going across the page from each letter, like a single line connected to each letter. That's what makes this an acrostic poem. When you can read, it's almost like a crossword puzzle, but in poetry form. But it's not a puzzle, it's really meant to be read. So you read down first to see what you're reading, what the word is, and then you read across, right, to see what each line is. And usually when somebody writes an acrostic poem, they would find a way to make the very first letter in each line really stand out. If you use all black font, you can make the first letter of each line really bold, so that even though all the letters are black, the first letter would still stand out. Or you can do what I did. You can use a different font color for the first letter of each line so that it stands out from the black or from whatever other color you've used for most of the poem. Okay, so let's read this and let's see if we can spot any examples of hyperbole. So I'm going to read it for you. Monsters by yours truly, Nanika Edwards. Monsters in the cupboard, ogling back at me. Nostrils huge as tunnels, smoking, puffing steam. Teeth the size of boulders. Eyes that bulge like eggs. Romping in my clothes. Shall I slap 'em in the head? Okay, so I'm going to read this again a little more slowly, maybe without all of that dramatization. And let's see if we can spot the examples of hyperbole or exaggeration. Monsters in the cupboard. Is that an example of exaggeration? No, not really, because I'm just stating a fact, right? There are monsters in my cupboard, right? Okay. Ogling back at me. What does ogling mean? By the way, when you read a piece of writing, if you come across any words that you don't understand or that are not familiar to you, you can look them up in a dictionary and you can either memorize the meaning or you can jot it down in a special book where you can write down your dictionary definitions and just keep a record of all the words that you're learning. If you want to even make that more fun, you can get a box, like a shoe box, or a nice big jar, like a cookie jar, and write down new words that you learn on a piece of paper and fold them up and put them in the jar. And at the end of a month or at the end of a year, you can go through all the new words that you would have learned. But anyway, ogling back at me. Ogling means kind of like staring, especially kind of googly-eyed, right? That's ogling. So ogling back at me. Is that an example of hyperbole or exaggeration? No, not really, because all I'm saying is that the monsters are looking back at me. Okay. Nostrils huge as tunnels. Nostrils huge as tunnels. Is that an example of hyperbole or exaggeration? I would say yes, because I would not expect a tunnel to fit in your cupboard because it would be way too big. So if their nostrils are as huge as tunnels, then that's definitely hyperbole or exaggeration. How about smoking, puffing steam? Is that an example of hyperbole? I don't think so, because there's nothing supersized or super small about this. Nothing super nothing about this. Okay. Teeth the size of boulders. Teeth the size of boulders. Well, that's definitely an example of hyperbole. Eyes that bulge like eggs. Well, I guess it depends on the size of the eggs, right? If they're dinosaur eggs, well, that's definitely exaggeration right there, right? But if they're just like regular eggs, maybe not. But the fact that I'm seeing that the eyes bulge suggests that it is hyperbole that I'm going for there, because the eyes bulging go with teeth and nostrils, right? Go with the teeth being like boulders and the nostrils being as big as tunnels. Okay, romping in my clothes. Is that an example of exaggeration? No, not really, because I'm just saying that they're playing around in my clothes and having a grand time, you know, bringing the house down, making a playground out of my closet or out of my wardrobe. Shall I slap them in the head? Is that an example of hyperbole? No, it's not an example of hyperbole. Why not? Exactly. I'm just stating a plain fact that I'm trying to decide if I should deal with them. As we would say in Trinidad. Should I deal with them? Should I give them something to remember? But yeah, good job, good job, good job. If you got even just one of those, very good. It means you learned something from this video. If you got all of them, great. But if you got one or two, hats off. Well done. All right, so that's it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, thank you so much for giving it a like or a thumbs up. And if you would like to see other videos like this, or if you found this video helpful and you'd like to get notifications when I post new ones, then please subscribe. Until next time.